Welcome to this week's Arnie Ball Show. I'm your host, Mark Franke, and our sponsors are Fujifilm and Farm Bureau Insurance. Arnie, I'd like to welcome you back to your own show, but quite frankly, after we've looked at the ratings from last week, they went way up with Bullseye Hartley on.
So why is she not here?
I don't know. She apparently decided that she wanted to get out while she was on top. Mm-hmm. Her ratings are high, so she'll get a big network contract someday.
I understand you were really nice to her.
I was really nice, yeah.
Why?
Well,
you're not nice to me. Why are you nice to her?
I was nice to her because she's a nice person.
Because she's a nice lady? Is that why you were nice to her?
Yeah, it was chivalrous is what it was. Actually, she was supposed to bring a guest, and she forgot to do that, so we had to fill all 24 minutes. We had trouble finding things to talk about. We actually got to your team, I think, late in the third segment. Mostly we talked about her team and all sorts of other things.
Well, we were supposed to feature Laura Douglas, weren't we? Wasn't that the plan?
Well, that was what I thought the plan was, but Kelly seemed to forget to ask her to come.
Because that was the only reason I let her come on the show, because we were going to feature Laura Douglas. And now, you're saying the ratings went up?
Yeah, the ratings went up.
Okay. See y'all. I'm out of here. Let Dan be on here.
Let Dan
Mike,
be on.
John.
Mike has his own show. He had his half hour previously.
Yeah, but we've seen his show.
Yeah, that's right. The
ratings can't be up on that show.
Well, we can always offer some professional advice to him. I'm sure he'd take it in the spirit in which it's offered.
At least we smile on this show, unlike the other show.
That's right.
Two stone-faced guys looking at one another
We timed them for 15 minutes last week, and there was no smiles. They were serious. Of course, the other rule they broke was that they are actually talking about the basketball program, and maybe we ought to talk about the volleyball program.
Why?
Why?
Huh? Why should we talk about our program that's similar to the basketball program?
Well, we did win at Mercyhurst on Friday night, so that's probably worth talking about. That was a conference match.
Did we win?
We won. We're actually probably in first place in the conference right now. We're tied for it, right? Since we've played once and haven't lost. That's right.
Then we can't. We got to be.
We got to be.
The season's over, actually.
We ought to see if we can get the season ended.
I talked to Coach Hansen today. He lost to Ball State last weekend. I said, we're canceling the rest of the season. We're on top. We're done. You're out of here. We're not playing you guys in 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, we'll talk more about Coach Hansen and some of the other teams in the conference in the last segment. Let's go back to Mercyhurst.
Yeah, let's do that.
We actually, I was a little bit surprised. We normally go up there and struggle. It's a long drive, and their players usually play with a lot of emotion. But we seemed to control the game pretty well till probably the third game. They actually were ahead. I think at 21-20 or 22-21.
I don't know. I don't remember.
It was close. Yeah, it was in the third game, and their coach did that double substitution, and we pretty much ran the table after that.
That never works.
Well, it sure didn't Friday night.
The Russians have tried that for years. It didn't work for the Russians in the '88 Olympics. Doesn't work for. It just doesn't work. People keep doing it. It doesn't work.
What we're talking about is when their setter rotated to the front row, what they did was they substituted a hitter for the setter, put a second setter in the back row opposite him, and so they had three hitters in the front row all the time. But their offense was actually moving pretty well then, and I think that slowed them down.
Doesn't work.
But we got
keep saying it doesn't
we
work.
won 3 games to zip, and that's all that matters, right?
Well, if we didn't have such a negative attitude, looking forward to that bus ride up to Erie, we'd probably play better up there. But I don't look forward to that bus ride at all up there and having to get out and go play. And knowing that it's going to snow at some time or another. And it did.
It did. Yeah, it did.
We knew it was going to snow. It always snows when we go up there.
There now, I think they got up to 117 inches of snow or something in Erie.
We were supposed to get a half a foot that night we were there, and it didn't happen.
We only got about 3 inches, I think.
We got too much. I know that. Yeah. But that win, I thought, was real good for our kids. So I didn't think we played extremely well. Mercyhurst just played poor. But when we go up there, usually the officiating's a little shaky, and the girls are on the lines, and that wasn't true. They had regular lines people. But I thought and with us having such a new group on the road for the first time, I was really concerned. And as you said, we usually go up there and play very poorly because we're looking forward to going to Penn State the next day and playing. To come away with a win 3-zip. I thought we got some pretty nice performances out of Ryan and certainly Jeff. We expect to have out Jeff, but Angel played really well. Angel played really well the whole weekend, I thought.
Yeah,
he and Josh both, but Angel maybe a little more so than Josh. So I'm real pleased with that, and certainly the win with Mercyhurst being a conference win on the road was a real nice plus for our kids.
Then we went the next morning over to Penn State, which is probably in the middle of absolutely nowhere in Pennsylvania. There's nothing around it. We didn't fare quite so well, but Penn State's got a really good team this year, and we were competitive. There was that streak in Game 1 where Koljassar served us right off the court. But other than that, we were close, and Game 2 was close. Game 3 was really close.
You know, Mark, the Penn State trip, and it sounds like it could change a little bit next year. Coach Pavlik at Penn State's talking about putting together a pretty big tournament that weekend because they're going to host the NCAA tournament next year. And he talked to me about us coming over with USC maybe and a couple other teams. But, you know, for the last 3 or 4 years, we've gone to Mercyhurst and drove down to Penn State, and we don't get a hotel, so we just kind of hang out on the campus. The kids walk around, which is cool. But we hang out in the bus. There's not a hotel room to go out and stretch out and lay down and to relax a little bit. I think our kids have done really well going over there under those circumstances, and we turn right around and then come home after the match is over, so we drive all night. And no one looks forward to that, even though certainly it's much better now on the bus than it was in those vans we used to come home in. But I think under those circumstances, our kids have performed really well over there. And this last weekend was no exception, considering the youth of our team. If you remember, we were ahead in Game 1 to 15. We were ahead in Game 2 to 15. We just, with some of our inexperience, we just weren't able to close any of those games. And the third game was 30-28, and the same thing happened. I believe it was 28-27, and we made an error to give them 29. And then of course, we sided out, and they won the game. So under all those circumstances, with this young team and the lack of depth we have, Ben Veely, who is our libero, was sick in the hospital, and so he didn't go with us. He made our numbers less. I'm pretty pleased with what we did. Obviously, we have a lot of things to improve upon, and we knew that going in, but we could have really gone over there and gotten beat up on badly, and that did not happen.
Yeah, we had those streaks, like I said, where the youth and experience of our team was part of the problem. I think at last year's team or the previous year where we had a lot of seniors, they would say, okay, you got 2 service aces, big deal. We're just going to side out and go from there. And this team really, it let it unnerve them a little bit, I think. And that's something that will improve with experience.
Well, sir, I certainly hope so. And, you know, when we look at that, we got, in that particular situation, we had Maddie passing, Aris passing, and Jeff. Well, they were picking on Aris and Maddie, and in that formation, we adjusted a little bit as we went along. But, you know, those 2 guys haven't played very much. Maddie not at all, and Jeff. And so this is something we have to get used to.
When we come back, we'll have Jeff Patak here. Jeff was playing near home. His family was there, and so we'll talk a little bit about that. So please stay with us.
Dr. Matthew Kubik is an architectural engineering professor at IPFW who utilizes his experience to teach his students one-on-one.
So it's really shoulder-to-shoulder learning that we're looking at problems together for the first time.
Dr. Kubik also is the director of the honors program at IPFW. His ability to teach on a personal level allows him to educate to the needs of his honors students.
They want more conversation. They want a closer contact with professors. They want interactive learning in the classroom.
He is thankful for the advantages of a combined classroom of young students and students who are returning to college after years in the workplace.
That mix of students creates a classroom environment that is exciting, that's vibrant.
IPFW, the right school, right here, right now.
Present for you, Fido, for that nice new car that won't go. And all your car guy says is, I don't know. It's the new Consumer Action Handbook, free from the government. Listen, with this puppy you'll get repairs repaired, wrongs righted. Look, companies, government agencies, names, numbers. Now nobody will treat you like a dog. Call for yours toll-free, 1-888-8-PUEBLO, or log on. It's a consumer's new best friend.
Welcome back to the Arnie Ball Show. Our guest this week is junior outside hitter Jeff Patak. Jeff is the team captain this year and has been with the Mastodons the last 2 years as well as an outside hitter. Jeff, when we go up to play in Erie, Pennsylvania, and over to Penn State, we're close to your home ground, so your family gets to come and watch you play.
Yeah, it's about an hour and a half from Buffalo, actually, Hamburg, where I'm from. I had several relatives there, old coaches, friends. It was a good experience. I liked it.
It was nice to see your mom. I know you don't want to talk a lot about it, but your mom's had a rough health history the last year or so, but she's looked a lot better.
Yeah, she did. She was diagnosed with cancer back in October, and it was supposed to be terminal. I mean, she was given like 3 weeks to live. And I was pretty bummed out the whole last semester. And she had surgery, and she went on chemotherapy. And all of a sudden, she had an MRI last week, and 2 of the brain tumors she has are gone. And so it's looking really good right now.
Yeah, well, certainly our prayers are with her.
Thank you.
And it was good that she could come and see you play.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, she was like my inspiration this weekend. I mean, Mercer here, so I saw her walk in, I'm all excited. I'm like, Ryan, give me the ball, you know. So, I mean, it was fun. It was fun seeing her.
You had other friends there. I think your brother was playing in the junior tournament going on at Penn State while we were there, right?
Yeah, my younger brother, his name's Corey, and he was playing in the 18-0 division, and he was on a 17s team. And he's only 16 himself, and he's a setter. And I taught him some things or two along the way throughout his career, but I mean, he needs to grow, is what he needs to do. Be a little smarter too.
You didn't teach him how to be tall?
No, I didn't actually. I don't think it's in his genes actually. He's only not even 6 foot. But he's a good kid. I like him a lot. It was good seeing him too. I haven't seen him play in about 2 years.
Certainly there's a big change in the team this year from what you played with. You came in 2 years ago as a freshman. You were the only freshman in the starting lineup at that time. In fact, you shared a lot of time with Javi. Then last year Angel came in, and now it's just the 2 of you left from those starters. All those seniors and older upperclassmen have graduated.
It's really tough. Can't explain it really, going from 2 years of being, you know, with some of the best players in the country, and then playing with, you know, I'm the oldest guy on the team, and I'm barely 21. Josh and Angel are the next oldest to me, and then I have all the young guys, and they kind of look for us to help. And that's the one thing that has kind of hurt our teams, because we're so inexperienced. And in the big games, people just get scared and they don't know what to do.
That happened a little bit at Penn State when Kojassar had a couple aces in a row. The younger players weren't really sure how to shake it off and go on.
Definitely. I'm sure that they have never seen anything like that. They probably have never played, I mean, that small of a gym with that big of a crowd ever. And I'm sure they're really nervous. And when something bad happens like that, you just got to learn through experience. I mean, I know my first game against Ohio State, I couldn't pass anything. And, I mean, it's the same thing, but it was just the fact that we had a lot more young players now. I was the only one then, but now we have everybody's pretty much young, so that's kind of difficult.
Well, the good side of that is that everybody comes back next year, plus whatever Coach Ball can bring in his recruiting class.
Yeah, that would be good. I mean, this year I knew it would be the rebuilding year, and I mean, nobody gives a chance. I mean, I think we could have a chance, but I mean, next year could be the year, because everybody, you know, will grow as a team. You know, everyone will get a lot better, and I mean, if we bring new guys in, that'll help us and challenge us a lot more.
One of the big changes this year in terms of the rules is the scoring system, and off camera, Mike Moss, who does basketball and does our games when we're on TV, asked how it was affecting the play, and you know, we were talking about that it seems to mean that there's be a lot of roller coasters this year. There'll be a lot of games that end quickly, and teams will win 3-0 one night and then lose 0-3 the next night.
Definitely.
The same team.
I see sometimes it gives like an advantage to a weaker team who can just side out, you know. I mean, it pretty much gives any team a chance sometimes. And other times, I mean, if a team's really good at serving, the other team's just done for, you know. So it's just, it has a lot of different ways it can affect teams.
I've noticed in my charting, first of all, that our serving has improved from the standpoint of a lot fewer errors. And that, of course, is important when a service error counts as a point. And the other thing is there seems to be less transition offense. Have you noticed that?
I noticed the serves. A lot of people have been taking a lot off the serves. Myself, I don't think. I just go up and try to bang it. I should probably think about it more, about trying to keep it in instead of banging the heck out of the ball. But, I mean, I haven't really noticed the transition that much. just from being in the game, I have noticed. I haven't really watched much film, so.
Well, I'm picking it up on my charts that there'll be some rotations where over the course of the night there's no transition offense. No real plays run. I only record if a true play is run as opposed to just simply returning the ball, and that's definitely down this year.
That probably has a lot to do with, I mean, it's not high, you know, I mean, if you rather go outside to a player and you know the ball's going to get terminated besides running like a X2 with like a back slide or something like that, you know. So, I mean, the play that the person will terminate the ball more, they're going to go to more than that.
The other thing I think has helped the serving is what's called the let serve, which comes from tennis, where if the ball hits the net but still lands in play, it's a live ball.
I really like that a lot because, I mean, it gives the servers a lot more an advantage. And, I mean, with the libero, last year it was a lot harder to get ace because they got the libero guy in there who's supposed to be the dominant passer. And now with the let serves, it makes it a lot tougher to pass.
I was really not for the rally scoring change. I just didn't think it would really help the game. But with the let serve, I think it does make it a very useful rules change.
I think it brings a lot more excitement to the game also, you know, for the fans.
Yeah, that let serve, instead of being a point against the serving team, frequently turns into a point for the serving team. Because the passers have to be ready to move up quickly and play that ball.
No, I don't think you have to have both the let and the rally. You can't just have one or the other.
Yeah, they work well together.
Definitely.
What do you see as the season goal for this team in terms of specific areas of improvement? What do you think the team as a whole needs to work on, and what will you focus on personally for the rest of the season?
Personally, I'm just trying to get everybody to work together, you know, and just trying to get everyone's mindset to be the same. You know, we just want to win. We want to have people on our team to play their role. You know, you're going to have the guy who doesn't get set that much, but when you're not getting set, you want to play defense, you want to pass the ball. And I think that is our goal, is to be what you're supposed to be on the team. Be your role, you know. And personally, I just try to be, you know, lead the team emotionally, and, you know, hopefully just get the job done. And I really wish, I want to be in that MIVA tournament. I want to be in the Final Four, and that will always be my goal every year.
And the only way to get to the Final Four is to win up through to the Final Four. You have to go out every night and prepare and win. You need to play well in conference play. You need to play well when we play good teams like Penn State out of our conference. And then when we get to the tournament, of course, you have to play to win every night because there's no second chance.
And I see every game, I see little things that we're getting better at and better and better at. I mean, it doesn't matter really what we're doing now, but at the end of the season is what matters. I mean, this could all be a learning experience this season, but then postseason is what really matters for us.
One of the things that Arnie and I have talked about is that the big difference in this team this year seems to be much stronger middles. Both Josh and Angel played well this weekend, as well as a couple weekends ago at home. And we seem to have a stronger middle this year. And if once we get more experience and Ryan gets used to setting them and our passing settles down a little bit more than what it is now, that could be even stronger.
I think so for sure. I think if our passing starts to get better and Ryan and the middles can connect, they're having a little bit of trouble right now, but if they get that set right where they can connect, I mean, it'll free up the outsides, it'll give them a lot more kills, and all in all, the team will be a lot better.
Well, clearly right now everybody on the other side of the net wants to load up on you because they know you're the returning hitter, and you were enough trouble for them last year when you had other guys to take part of the load. So by having a stronger middle, then that takes some of that pressure off you. They either have to stay on the middles, or the middles are just going to have a field day.
I know, for sure. I mean, they gotta, as soon as we establish that middle, they're not going to be able to pile up on me. They'll have to guess around. I mean, Maddie will be one-on-one, I'll be one-on-one once in a while, and I mean, it'll be a lot easier for us to get terminate the ball.
Absolutely. What's your major, Jeff?
General studies.
General studies. And your focus is in what area? What's your interest?
I'm not really sure right now. I think kind of go with the art a little bit.
Art?
Yes.
And you're on track to graduate probably in what, 5 years?
Yeah, 5 years.
5 years. That's typical for an athlete. Typical for most students these days.
Yeah.
That's junior outside hitter Jeff Patak, our team captain this year. When we return, Arnie will be back, and we'll look ahead to this week's conference matches in the state of Illinois. Please stay with us.
With over 30 years of dedication to his students, Professor of Geosciences Deepak Chowdhury recognizes the IPFW experience.
He doesn't spoon feed you all the information that you need. He mostly will give you all of the knowledge that you need in bits and pieces. And it's almost like a puzzle where he gives you all the pieces, and in the end you'll put it together and have the larger picture yourself. I really enjoy it. He's a great professor to work with and for.
IPFW is one of only 3 universities in the state to offer students hands-on experience with their own seismograph. This gives Dr. Chowdhury great pride, but it is the interaction with his students that has kept him teaching.
When the students understand the concept, what's happening, that glimmer of light in their eyes, that you cannot trade for any money. So that's the most important thing.
IPFW, the right school, right here, right now.
They came from every corner of the country. From small towns and big cities. But they all shared one thing in common. They belonged to a family called Marines. A tough and determined few, dedicated to protecting everything we hold sacred. And still they come. Celebrate the 225-year history of those proud few who have earned the title Marine.
Welcome back to the Arnie Ball Show. Arnie, Jeff Patak's always interesting to interview, isn't he? Who'd have thought when he came in 2 years ago that he would be the team captain, the team leader, the experience, the old man on the team?
You know, Jeff has really matured a great deal in the very short period of time he's been here. He's had some very troubling times, you know, with the illness with his mom and some other kinds of things that have happened. But I think he's really stepped forward in regards to the growth in his mental approach, not only to his own personal game, but to the leadership of the team. He has a tendency to be a little flamboyant every once in a while and go off like some other players we've had in the past. He's worked really hard at it. I've talked to him about it, and I think he's really grown and mature. Also, the other thing that I think that's going to help him this season, in particular, already has helped, is that he's going to get an opportunity to go with the national team as soon as our season's over, and hopefully be part of the World University Games and some other stuff. And I know he's really looking forward to that, and I think that's helped make him focus a little more.
Well, he's going to get well prepared for international travel this next weekend, as we have to go all the way over to Quincy, Illinois, which is as far west into Illinois as you can possibly get.
You know, it's as far west as Penn State is east. Isn't that right? And about the same hour drive?
It seems like it's longer, but you're probably
I think
right.
they're about 8 hours. I think they're both about 8 hours.
Yep.
I can't wait. I'm just really excited about going.
But it's a conference match. And of course, when we get there, we will have Coach Johnson's favorite player, Mr. Steinkuhler, still there with the team. He's got to be like a 7th-year player, doesn't he?
You know, I think that I'm going to stop you and change the direction just slightly. Since the ratings were up on the show last week, I think we ought to send Bullseye in our place. Maybe our team would play better.
Oh, send her to coach this weekend?
Yeah, just send her along.
Yeah,
since she is, you know, the glowing whatever that everybody wants to watch and be around, just send her with our team.
Yeah.
I don't want to go on this trip anyhow. Just send her.
Actually, even going to Lewis is not a lot of fun.
That's what I said. I don't want to go on this trip. And our women's program has had all kinds of success against Lewis. Let her go coach the team.
Yeah, that's right. Of course, Lewis University sits right next to the federal penitentiary there out north of Joliet, Illinois. That's where Pete Rose served his time, right?
Yeah.
So
that's where they get most of their players from. They just kind of jump the fence, you know. Actually, no, they use a broom handle and crawl underneath. Isn't that how they get out now? Isn't that how that works?
I don't know. I have no idea how one would get out of a place like that.
Well, I don't either. I just read that in the paper.
I do have a brother-in-law who's a guard at the Terre Haute State Prison, and he's one of the guards will be responsible for the execution of our Oklahoma City bomber.
Is that right?
Working that execution, yeah.
Wow, how do we get here? How do we get to this?
I'd rather talk about prison and executions than to drive to Quincy.
Going to Lewis, Quincy. Yeah, me too. I'm with you. Let's just keep this going.
So what do we know about Lewis this year?
They're full of Brazilians.
Brazilian.
Yeah, I mean, Paulo Vila's back. We know that. You know, he's a pretty good middle on their team. Jeff Getz, kid from St. Louis, is back, and we've had a lot of success against him. But they have a couple Brazilian players. They have a couple other players that transferred in. So my job after the show today is to go look at the tape that Cheeks broke down to me so I can figure out what they're doing. Because we don't know a lot about them. They seem to think they're going to be really good.
They always think that.
Well, they seem to think they're going to be pretty good, and we'll see. They had a pretty good trip in Hawaii, you know, over there, but ended up losing, but a pretty good trip. I think they'll be just like the rest of us. Even though on paper they appear to be maybe a little stronger, but with this rally scoring, anything can happen. And so we'll break it down the tape and take a look at them and go in and play on Saturday. Got to play them twice, so we'll play them there once, and here once, and see what happens.
Then we drive Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, go over to Quincy, play there.
Yeah, we're going to play with Mr. Steinkühler and his friends, and you know, they've got almost all their team back, and they think they're going to be pretty good. And I think they're going to be pretty good. I mean, it'll be tough for us over there. We
played them on this trip last year, but it was the third match of the weekend. We played Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night. We beat them in 3, but I don't think if we had lost that third game, I think we'd lost the match because we were out of gas.
Well, if you remember, Scotty Lane served them off the floor. If it wasn't been for that, we might have lost. Right. You know what? The tables have turned. This is going to be their third match in a row. They're playing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Now it's all at home, but you know they're still playing 3 matches in a row, and they got to play Ohio State before they play us. I kind of like that scenario.
That's right. You want to play a team after someone else has beat up on them a little bit.
Yeah,
right?
And we're going to play at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, so there's not a lot of turnaround time for them.
So we play at 5 in the afternoon. We're out of there by 8 at night. That means we get home when? About midday Wednesday? It's a long drive.
We ought to be home in time to do the show if we're lucky.
That's right.
And we do the show on Tuesday.
That's right. We tape the show on Tuesday, so we definitely have to be back in time for the show.
Yeah, if we get Gary, the same guy that drove us to Penn State, we'll be fine. He did a nice job getting us home.
Gary put the pedal to the metal. There's no doubt about it.
And if we don't run into bad weather like we did coming home.
Yeah,
from Penn State, we'll be all right.
We need better weather this time. We didn't hit the bad weather till Toledo Sunday morning, so it was
a little slippery though. The bus was kind of going like this.
Yeah, it was.
So we made her.
We made it. We sure did. No sports being telecast this weekend on Channel 56, so I guess people have to watch something else.
Everybody's all gone.
Basketball's gone. Volleyball's gone.
I think Bullseye should have a special show.
We'll give Bullseye
Keep
the time.
Ratings up.
We have Coach Bullseye Hartley. She needs her own show. For Jeff Patak, head coach Arnie Ball, our sponsors, Farm Bureau Insurance and Fuji Films, Mark Franke. So long and thanks for watching. Welcome to this week's Arnie Ball Show. This week our guest is trainer Scott Knurr. We're going to preview the upcoming conference match at Ohio State this weekend. And when we come back, Arnie's going to try to come up with some excuses as to why we lost both times this last weekend. So please stay with us. Welcome to the Arnie Ball Show. I'm your host, Mark Franke, and our sponsors this week are Farm Bureau Insurance and Fuji Film. I think we do this wrong, Arnie. You know, in the previous show, Mike Moss is out here. He's got a clipboard and about 16 pages worth of stats, and he's going through, and those poor coaches, he asks them a question. They've got to answer. He's got the data right there. They can't give him a bunch of BS like you always give me. So I think I need to come better prepared. I got to have, you know, a clipboard with a lot of data on it and all my questions written out in advance.
What makes you think that that would give me any non-latitude not to give you some more BS? What's that got to do with giving you BS?
Well, maybe then it's just that Coach Smesko is more professional than you. Is that what you're trying to say? So I've already admitted that Mr. Moss is a much better interviewer than I. So.
I don't argue that any. I would never argue that any. He's had a lot more D1 experience than I've had, so therefore he's much more professional than I would be.
Well, one thing that we're both relearning our experience on is losing, coming home with 2 losses over a weekend. We've had some very good teams the last couple of years, and we haven't had to face that very often. But this week, 2 conference matches, and heartbreaker at Lewis on Saturday night. In fact, we had it won 13-10 in Game 5, and it got away from us in a hurry there. And then disappointing show on Sunday where the players were tired and emotionally down, and a very emotional Quincy team just really drilled us. So that's my summary of the weekend. If you can put a brighter light on that, go right ahead.
Since you early in the intro said that I would have an excuse as to why we lost, Mike Bill, Scott Knurr.
It's got to be one or the other because they were.
Could be both.
Could be both. Mike Bill was our driver, and it's the first time we've ever had Mike as a driver, and Scott Knurr has never traveled with us before, so it's got to be one of those two. Or that Coach Johnson took the weekend off.
Yeah, that's a possibility, but I think it made the fact he took the weekend off to move his son to Indianapolis, I think was really a plus for him, so I don't think it had anything to do with that.
I still think it's not just a coincidence that Denny decides to move Chris to Indianapolis on the week we have to drive to Quincy and come back over on a Sunday night. I don't think that's a pure coincidence.
Timing is everything.
Timing is everything.
And in this case, he did a good job.
Let's go back to Lewis.
I don't like to go to Lewis.
Yeah, I know.
I've never liked to go to Lewis. 20 years I've been going to Lewis. I still don't like to go there.
In fact, you saw in their review book that there are only 2 teams in the MIVA that have a winning record against Lewis, Ohio State and us. In fact, we're the only, Ohio State's like 1 game above 500, and we're, what, 13-9 or 13-8 with them?
Yeah, I think it's 13-8 now.
13-8. Could have been 14-7 because we had them.
Yes, they did. Have them. No, we didn't have them.
We didn't have them.
They had.
They had them. I really did not expect to be that competitive going in there because I thought Lewis would have a much more experienced team than we did with all these young kids we've got. But we played them hard, and at 13-10, somehow maybe the players looked at the scoreboard or something.
Well, first of all, Lewis does have a much more experienced team than us. You know, they have 3 starters back from last year. And there are 2 additions, are 2 kids from Brazil, one who's 22 years old, one who's 26 years old. So obviously their experience is much greater than anything that we have in the fact that we don't have any seniors on this team. And Jeff Patak is really the only player that's got 2 years of playing experience on our team. So if you look at the 2 matchups on paper, we should be out of there in a hurry. After the first game, I thought we were going to be out of there in a hurry. The second game, our kids were very composed. We came back. We played really well. Both teams were extremely offensive. Neither team were our very good blocking teams. Matter of fact, I think we outblocked Lewis.
Yeah.
But the hitting percentages were up in the 400s. And in a couple games that Lewis won, they were in the 600s. You know, I mean, that's incredible offensively, or the other teams are just poor defensively. So you can pick and choose whatever you want. And I haven't looked at enough of the tape to decide which is which. So we win Game 2, we come back and lose Game 3, we come back and win Game 4. And in Game 4, I thought we played really well. And it's all directly related to our passing. You know, it's the same old stuff that we've talked about for years and years and years. And in Game 5, we held our composure really well and got to 13-10. Made a real critical serving error that went off the back wall, and then we made a passing error by Jeff Patak. Angel tried to back set the ball, and the official called him for a lift. I disagree with the call, but when you're on the road, those things happen. And then we got to 13-10, and we couldn't side out against the float server. We made a couple bad choices. We made a couple bad swings. They made one great defensive play in there, and turned the ball and scored. And you know, with a young team, when you get in that situation, you just kind of get a little tighter and a little tighter. We called all the timeouts we're allowed to call timeout. Our bench doesn't, we don't have much depth on the bench, so there wasn't much opportunity to do any substituting. And we just got in a scenario that we couldn't get out of, and we ended up losing 17-15.
I think it clearly was the youth and experience of our team there at the end that caused us to lose our composure that quickly. And I think it carried over into Sunday as well, because we came out on the floor, not only were we physically tired from that long match Saturday night, but I think emotionally we were down too from that loss having had several hours to sink in. And I think this team is just too young and inexperienced to be able to recover from a tough loss on the road and be able to play the next day. I think they need to gain some more experience before they can do
Well, you
that.
never want to make any excuses. We can look at all kinds of reasons why we lost on Sunday. Quincy has 5 starters back. Same scenario as Lewis. We'd never beaten Quincy, or never lost to Quincy. So they're obviously ready gunning for us. It's at their place. But they had played Ohio State the night before and lost. So, that wasn't a long match like what ours was. So maybe that's a factor. Maybe the fact that we're on the bus all day traveling is a factor. The biggest factor at Quincy, however, was the fact that we didn't come out ready to play in Game 1. But we pretty much corrected some of that in Game 2. And at the break, we had a 6-minute break. And during that break, I made a major coaching error. I went back and got really after the kids about the fact I didn't think we were playing as hard as we ought to be playing. This is a young group. You can't do that, especially after they just won. Instead of taking advantage of the fact that we won and built on that, I did just the opposite. Because I was just really upset because I didn't think we were playing hard. But yet we just won. And I think I really took the wind out of those kids' sails and the fact that they're inexperienced and they're young, maybe we're tired, et cetera, et cetera. But the old man bore into them when indeed we just won. I think took a lot of the energy out of our kids. And I have to really think that my behavior at that time out was a major factor in us not coming back and playing very well in Games 3 and 4.
One of the most difficult things in coaching is to know how to treat your kids emotionally. When some kids, kicking the rear end helps other kids, that does just the opposite. And with a lot of these new players, I guess it's something you have to learn too, right?
Well, I think it was a major mistake on my part on Sunday.
When we come back, trainer Scott Knurr will be with us, and he'll get to defend the charge that he may have contributed to the loss by being a brand new occupant of the bus on the way over. So please stay with us.
For over 3 decades, Dr. James Owen has been credited for helping IPFW become a top-rated school through not only teaching, but also his involvement in the Fort Wayne community.
The kind of people that the city were hiring at the time were people with advanced computer skills. I thought, my Lord, unless my students get up to speed in this particular area, skill and talent, knowledge, that they weren't going to be competitive in the job market.
Dr. Owen developed courses that would train his students to become leaders in the community.
At one time, of the 6 major department heads in the city of Fort Wayne, 3 of them were former students of mine that I'd recommended for the job.
He makes a point to stay in touch with former students, and that makes a difference in their lives.
Whenever I think about undergraduate days, I always think about old Professor so-and-so. She said, I have one like that too. And she said that's Dr. Owen.
IPFW, the right school, right here, right now.
Welcome back to the Arnie Ball Show. Our guest this week is IPFW sports trainer Scott Knurr. Scott is new to the program this year. In fact, just made his first road trip with the volleyball Tuskers this last weekend, and a rather inauspicious start. We were trying to decide, Arnie and I were talking, whether the problem that we lost both matches this weekend was due to you being new or the bus driver who was new, because we never had that bus driver before.
Well, according to the other coaches, I have a pretty good track record with bringing good luck with me, so I would say we'd have to probably blame it on the bus driver.
Okay, so Mike Bill's responsible for those losses, our bus driver. We're going to have to make sure that we chastise him appropriately then, right?
Sounds good.
Scott, you started in the fall. Obviously, you were with the women's volleyball team a lot. I know you were always at their home matches. Tell us a little bit about how you ended up here at IPFW this year.
I grew up in the Fort Wayne area, out in Harlan, went to Woodland High School, and I completed my bachelor's degree at Ball State University.
In sports medicine?
In athletic training, yes.
Athletic training.
And then I was looking for a change of scenery to get my master's degree, so I ended up at the University of Utah to get my master's degree in sports management. And while I was there, I was a graduate assistant working with the women's gymnastics team and women's soccer. And through a course of events, I ended up getting married, spent a few years out there in Utah, and finally convinced my wife that Fort Wayne was a pretty good place to be, so started looking for work back here in the Fort Wayne area, and got lucky and ended up here at IPFW.
So did you, your wife Jennifer, right? Is her
Yes.
name? You met her in Utah?
Yes, I did.
So she's not a native Hoosier.
No, she's not. So
But so her probation period probably, to see from Utah to Indiana, is probably about 10 or 15 years probation before we count her as a Hoosier.
according to her, maybe even longer than that, so she'll be hardcore Utah for as long as she can get away with it, I think.
I was out there over the holidays. I have a sister that lives in Salt Lake City, so I can see how the change of perspective is a little shocking for somebody to move back here to the flatlands.
Yeah. And the first time she came out here, she was looking across the horizon, and she said, "Well, you guys do have mountains." And I said, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "Well, look out in the horizon. You can see, you know, there's a break in the horizon." I said, "Well, Jen, I hate to break it to you, but those are trees, and no mountains here." So I give her a hard time about that.
They don't have a lot of trees out there in the desert.
No, they don't.
So you started working for Sport One then?
I'm actually employed by Health South.
By Health. I get real confused about all that corporate relationship there, but basically, Orthopedics Northeast is the same as the parent. Are they the parent?
It's a real interesting situation. Dan is employed by ONE, or Orthopedics Northeast, and I'm employed by Health South. Health South is one of the largest corporations that does physical therapy in the country, so it's a completely different company. And Health South shares some office space and some space over with ONE, so that's how the tie-in got there.
So that's why I always get them mixed up, because they're in the same building.
Right.
Over there just off of North Clinton.
Correct.
And you work here, even though you're an employee of Health South, you're assigned here, so to speak, to be
Right.
one of the trainers for IPFW.
Correct. Yes, I'm here full-time, even though I'm employed by Health South.
And Dan Fox, the other trainer, is also in a similar arrangement, right?
Exactly.
And so you take responsibility for all of the IPFW athletes, all the teams. You've worked with pretty much all of them, haven't you?
We have. And rather than giving specific sport assignments to each of us, we pretty much share the workload. So each of us has a full understanding of what's going on with each of the athletes. We feel that that's beneficial because we can bounce ideas off of one another, and there's not a possessive feeling about this is my team, that's your team, so we try to work together as best as we can with that.
And that helps when you've got multiple teams in season at the same time, some home, some on the road, that by knowing all the athletes, kind of like two doctors being in partnership together, right?
Exactly.
They want to know all their patients so that whichever one happens to be on duty at the time, they can handle it.
Correct.
What has been probably the most significant injury that you've had to deal with this year? What kind of problem?
Well, the most serious one that we had this year actually, fortunately, happened to somebody from another school. It was a goalie, and they went up for a ball, landed on their shoulder, and he dislocated his clavicle. So his bone didn't poke through the skin, but was sticking, pretty much straight up. So, when you have instances like that where there's a gross deformity, it makes it all the more interesting because everybody's especially concerned with that because they can actually see the problem where somebody rolls their ankle. That's not as shocking to everybody else that's on the court, but when you can actually see something and the lay person like a coach or player can tell what's wrong, that really adds to the confusion of the situation.
When there's a serious injury on the field or on the floor, the trainers from both sides come running, don't they?
Correct.
It's at that point, it's anybody who has the professional expertise to help is out there trying to get it done.
Exactly. And it's a nice thing with athletic trainers. We like to work together, even if we're from different schools, to try to make sure that the athlete gets the best possible care.
The other thing you do, in fact, we're taping this show on a Tuesday morning, and we're as soon as you get done here, you're going to head back to the Gate Sports Center, and you're going to give a quiz. You're teaching a course, right?
Yeah, exercise physiology. So hopefully, we get back there, so by the time that I'm to my class, the class is still there and hasn't decided just to leave and try to take the quiz at a later date.
Actually, a couple of students came up to me and offered me a bribe to see if I could delay you here long enough that the quiz would get canceled.
Well, hopefully they stick around, even regardless of what you said.
And we'll have you over there in time.
Okay.
So that's just an extra duty?
That is an
Or
extra
something
duty.
you volunteered for? You enjoy doing that?
I do enjoy. This is, the first class that I've taught in exercise physiology. I've taught some taping labs where we teach different techniques in wrapping and taping for athletic injuries. But this is my first full course that I've been able to teach. And I've learned just probably as much or more than the students have, so it's good to sharpen your skills while teaching. It's amazing how much you learn in the process preparing for a class.
How much travel have you had to do this year? Pretty much gone. One of you's probably gone every weekend, right? Because with basketball teams are in season as well as volleyball now. Pretty soon baseball and softball will be starting up. Track?
Yeah, the only teams that we travel with right now are men's and women's volleyball and men's and women's basketball. Those are the only ones that we're required to travel with. So this month especially has been bad. Both of us will be gone each weekend during this month of February, but once basketball winds down, our only travel responsibility will be with men's volleyball. But we'll also have the responsibilities of the various teams which are home, being baseball, softball, and track. And then we'll also have the non-traditional seasons in the spring as well.
Well, if it's beginning to be too much of a workload for you, we could probably excuse you from the Long Beach trip in March because you'll probably want to be home to take care of that March snowstorm that comes in and make sure your driveway's shoveled out. You wouldn't want to be in Long Beach with us, would you?
Well, sometimes you have to make real sacrifices, and I think this is one where you have to, take one for the team. So I think I'll adjust my schedule
along, right?
accordingly. Yeah.
You said was it your undergraduate degree that was in athletic training?
Yes.
And then the master's?
Is in sports management.
Sports management, okay.
Right.
And is it really there's obviously a lot of health-related courses and so forth?
Correct. Ball State has a complete curriculum, and the courses in athletic training are basic injury management, evaluation. We have to have current first aid and CPR certification, exercise physiology, regular physiology, anatomy. So we cover quite a bit. And along with that, there are classes in psychology because with some of these athletes that we run into, a lot of their problem is magnified by that psychological aspect. So
basically, you're the player's mother away from home, right?
That's the way we kind of refer to it quite a bit. Yeah, we have a lot of kids that we have to take care of.
And speaking of parenthood, we should say that you're a new father just 2.5 months ago, a little boy named Parker, right?
Yep, really excited about that. So not only do I have the parenting here at work, now I take the parenting home with Parker now.
So you're going to know what Parker's going to be like in 20 years when he's a college student, right?
Exactly.
You're getting your fill of college students right now. So Scott, briefly then during the summer, do you expect to stay here at the program or be reassigned by HealthSouth?
That still remains up in the air quite a bit. There'll be camps this summer that I'll probably be working here at the university, and then also probably filling in for some camps that they'll have out at the Spies Field House.
Okay.
So they'll be keeping me busy here and there.
That's IPFW trainer Scott Knurr. When we return, Arnie will be back, and we'll look forward to the Ohio State match. Please stay with us.
They came from every corner of the country. From small towns and big cities. But they all shared one thing in common. They belonged to a family called Marines. A tough and determined few, dedicated to protecting everything we hold sacred. And still, they come. Celebrate the 225-year history of those proud few who have earned the title Marine.
Welcome back to the Arnie Ball Show. Well, Arnie, Scott disabused us of the notion that he's in any way responsible for our losses this weekend. He says it must be the bus driver. Because he said the teams he's traveled with in the past have always done real well on the road. So,
well, he's going to get another chance to prove that, especially when we go to Long Beach and play Santa Barbara and Long Beach. We'll see how he does there. That will be the true test.
That'll be the true test. So he has a chance to redeem himself, is what you're saying.
he better get down on bended knee and say a lot of good things to the gap above, because that's really going to be a tough tournament.
And we have a tough match coming up this weekend on Saturday night. Ohio State. Ohio State, of course, won the conference last year, got into the finals of the NCAA before losing to UCLA. Have some players back, but lost a number of others as well. And they've been a little bit up and down this year, haven't they?
Well, it's the way the conference is going to be. It's like what we talked about in the first segment with our match with Lewis. Who would have thought? But there we were. I mean, we were in a position to win. Ohio State lost to Loyola on that night before we played at Lewis, and then went down and beat Quincy 3-0 at Quincy. We ended up losing. Ohio State's lost to Ball State at Ball State. You look at Ohio State's team and our team. Coach Hansen and I talked earlier last week. I mean, we both had those great teams last year. He's got two kids that are playing on the Puerto Rican national team. Colin McMillan's playing with the U.S. team. We have two kids that are going to be on the train with the national team. Hector's playing overseas. So we had great players, and all of a sudden you take all those players and they go away. You just can't replace those players that quickly. Now he has two players in Fash and I'm drawing a blank.
Ulrey,
Peter Ulrey, who are both really, really good players. They have a brand new setter, a young man out of Canada. Someone actually we tried to recruit, and he ended up going to Ohio State. But he's very athletic, but he's a freshman setter. Both middles are new for them because both their middles graduated. So they're in the same scenario we are. They have a little more depth than we have, and they have those two really good players where I think we especially have Jeff, and then Angel's got to pick it up for us a little bit. Anything can happen right now in this league just because it's so well balanced and there's so many new players. The veteran teams are truly Quincy and Lewis, who have the most starters returning, and probably next would be Ball State.
Yeah.
And after that, it's maybe Loyola. They've got a number of their players back, but they lost their really, really good player, their opposite. So this thing is just really, really wide open. Last weekend, Clark beat Mercyhurst. That's a first for Clark.
That's Clark's first win in the conference.
Yeah, first win since they've been in the conference. Right. Period. A Division III school. So this whole league is just going to be I could see somebody winning the league with 2 or 3 or maybe 4 losses even.
And certainly the rally scoring is contributing to that probably better balance in the league, because in the past, if you had a good side-out team like we've had, and you get in trouble, you just keep siding out until the other team's emotional level drops, and then you win the game. Whereas now you can't side out for 15 minutes and then come back and win, because those points are being scored throughout that whole time. It's
really changed the whole thing, and I think serving's even more important maybe it was before, but yet I think the majority of servers have backed off. We're not nearly as aggressive, but you need to be because of that rally scoring, because everybody scores. You just can't throw it over. I mean, it's like we were talking about with our Lewis match, teams hitting 600. I mean, you can't let teams hit 600. So you got to, but if you're conservative because of the rally scoring, because you're concerned with the scoring points, that's what happens. So we've changed our philosophy, statistically on the bench about looking at real points you score when you serve, because they become so critical now with this rally scoring and the let's serve with the serving error. Normally, you got the ball, now the team gets to go ahead and play it. So it's just changed everything, and I think it's made the competition tighter. And I think we've seen that internationally. I think we're seeing that obviously already collegially, that nobody gets blown out at this point. And even if you get behind, because it's that rally score, you can make up points in a hurry. As before, where it took forever to make up points. If you get on a roll in this rally scoring, you can make points up in a hurry.
That's right. Like our 13-10 Lewis thing, you'd think normally, well, that one's over. but it just takes a couple of mistakes, and all of a sudden it's not over. It's a tight match.
They rack up in a hurry.
Yeah. So it certainly provided some excitement. I know I was a naysayer about going to rally scoring, but I'm getting to like it, and especially with the let's serve, I think that helps balance it a little bit. But it does make it more exciting.
Well, I'll tell you, the match at Lewis was an exciting match. Went 5 games, and obviously the teams alternated back and forth winning. But people were there, some of our fans, some of our parents were there who had not been exposed to that, said, you know, we really enjoyed that match. It was really a lot of fun to be part of.
And statistically, the team on the one side of the court always won. The 4 first games were won by the team on that one side of the court, and then during Game 5, we started there, got a big lead, went to the other side, they caught us. So there's something going on.
Oh, only you would recognize
There's
it.
something. Well, Blake Sebring probably has a chart on that or
he
something.
probably does, you're right. You're probably right.
Well, next week I'm going to miss the trip. That's the first trip I will have missed in probably 5 or 6 years. And the last trip I missed was Ohio State, and it went to 5 games. So,
did we win?
Yeah, you won. So,
okay.
Good luck. For head coach Arnie Ball, our guest Scott Knurr, sponsors Farm Bureau Insurance and Fujifilm, this is Mark Franke. So long, and thanks for watching.